I recently heard, Nina Turner, in her infamous stupidity, state that the solution to poverty is money. So there are many different rebuttals to this idea that can be used against this, but statements such as this really demonstrate how unrefined so many people on the left's understanding of economics really is. So if we were to break this down, for example, Nina here would be saying that the solution to a lack of material goods, is a medium of exchange that is actually used to obtain these goods in the first place. So what if the people who own those goods have no incentive to exchange them with people who don't have them because they no longer see the medium of exchange as the valuable item that they once did? I mean, my question to Nina Turner is that if the solution to poverty is money, then what's the solution to inflation? But anyway, though, my question to you is, what is your rebuttal to this idea to this, idea that the solution to poverty is money, and what is the reasoning behind your rebuttal, that you would use against these Keynesian or Marxist or just simply erroneous policies that Nina Turner and a lot of people similar to her are advocating? What knowledge would you like them and their followers to learn regarding economics?
Well, I think it'd be wrong to kind of lump Nina Turner in sort of a Keynesian fool, or try to give her any sort of the credit of having any sort of a broader sort of economic perspective of the world, with perhaps the exception of maybe modern monetary theory, which I doubt she has read in any great deal too. But I think modern monetary theory, which is the idea that that the government can basically print and spend money at their will, without real consequences, because they have taxing power and the like, and that they can use this as a policy tool. I think we got a great taste of that during the COVID era, where there was a complete lack of regard for the production aspect of the economy and a great deal of focus on monetary stimulus and the like. And you had Trump bucks, and you had Biden's round of checks and things like that. And what people experienced was, it was the highest levels of inflation that America had had in quite some time and within generations. That's the problem, though, is that if you, in my experience, if you engage with the left, their focus is on redistribution, which I can understand to a certain extent, but they have no idea, they have no concept of the productive aspect of things. They don't have any interest in exploring the question of what creates prosperity in its own right. What they're interested in is looking at, if we think about all goods and services as some sort of homogeneous blob, what's the best way to redistribute the shares of that so that each individual has a more equal outcome of that pie? They have no, and of course, this just comes from a complete ignorance, of what the entire process it takes to be able to have the cars and food and clothing and all these things that we're really looking for when we talk about, when they are, what they are talking about, when they are looking for, increasing the quality of life for, whatever their group that they're trying to advocate for. And I think really this kind of comes down to, one of the great tragedies of the modern world is the poor way that economics is taught in high schools. We're living really in an age of, I think, economic agnosticism, of economic denialism. And I think that, part of that comes from the fact that the most prominent economic voices out there have been wrong, right? When Peter Schiff was right, Paul Krugman and most of the economic punditry class was wrong. You see the economics profession has been discredited, rightfully so, within the mainstream, for their inability to predict obvious crises from happening. And that creates kind of this perspective, I think, that permeates within both the left and I think increasingly the right, that views economics as a discipline really as sort of a propaganda platform pushed by some sort of group they don't like. So the left sees economics as a propaganda platform by big corporate special interest groups, right? Those evil Koch brothers. That use the mantle of free markets to simply convince politicians to give them more money so that they can go live off yachts and the like. On the right, you see economics increasingly kind of seen and dismissed as a tool of corporations, or of corporations as well, that for things that they are increasingly identifying as bad. You think about defenses of deplatforming conservatives on social media and the like. There's been the lack of any sort of serious economic lens by which otherwise intelligent people view the world. I think if you don't have that lens of just understanding the basics of trade-offs, understanding the opportunity costs, appreciating the entire stage of production necessary for the production of things. And we think about the eye-pencil dynamic of just the amount of different actors that are needed to pull together to create simple things. If you don't have that basic lens to add to your understanding of the world at large, it is very easy to kind of create from thin air all these outlandish and practical things. And unfortunately, what economics really is, I believe is a quote by F.A. Hayek, is that the curious task of economics is to demonstrate to men how little they know about what they imagine they can design. The real role of economics should be telling people what they can't do, which is not a very popular thing, right? If you're a good economist, you're not going to be well liked by the political class. And I think that that incentive mechanism by people wanting to be liked, wanting to have a very nice position, wanting to have, it leads to ignoring the real economic consequences of things. And that's why you have right now a political system where both political parties are perfectly fine kicking the can down the road on an outrageous debt levels for America, completely disinterested in dealing with the real issues behind money. They're completely content on ignoring these issues that have no simple political solutions. And again, when the proper solution to an economic crisis is to allow it to play out, to allow prices to fall, to allow for businesses to go out of work because they were artificially propped up, to allow wages to fall, these are all dynamics that the solution requires real hardship for people, right? If you are in an industry, if you were a home builder in the financial crisis, if you were a realtor during the housing bust, you dealt with very real pain that you had you were not responsible for the low interest rates that inflated the bubble. You were not responsible for the policy things that led you to take on these careers, this direction of your life. You were not responsible for the underlying policy things that led you to this point, and yet you are the one bearing the consequences. We can't, us as a society right now, we can't stomach this, these short-term pains in order to have a better future in the future, a better future for everyone else in the long run. And I think that sort of reflexive dynamic, it makes it very difficult for certain people to really engage properly with ultimately our questions of economics. And again, unfortunately, so much of the economic mainstream is perfectly okay with promoting a lot of this delusional dynamics. And again, I think that goes to a broader conversation to the extent that incentives and research and academics and sort of this serious thinking class have been politicized its own right. The number one source for economics grants out there is the Federal Reserve. It's surprise, surprise. The sort of research you get out there tends to be in their favor and the like. So we have this additional dynamic where the state has perverted institutes of higher learning that would otherwise kind of deal with some of these issues. But it's a very real problem. I think economic denialism is one of the great cultural and social issues that we have, and ultimately there's no solution besides education, and that's one of the main focuses the Mises Institute has within its mission, is to help spread the ideas with books and articles and podcasts and other sort of content, so at the very least we can create a remnant of people that are capable of looking at the world around us and thinking about it like an economist, and to have that additional sort of lens to avoid being bamboozled by the outlandish schemes, propagandas, and lies from the political class and those that are the conspirators.